new main event for UFC 282, November 23rd, it was announced that Yuri Prochazka was out of his bout against Glover Teixeira, and from 3 rounds originally between Jan Blachowicz and Magomed Ankalaev, it would be a 5-round main event for the title that Blachowicz once held not that long ago. We have Poland's Blachowicz taking on he's on an absolute heater. Magomed Ankalaev, an absolute win streak, and I was going to say undefeated, but he had that last-second Hail Mary loss to Paul Craig in his UFC debut. Since then, a wild win streak for Ankalaev. List you the names: Prachnio, Abreu, Lungiambula, Kutsalaba twice, Krylov, Uzdemir, Santos, and Anthony Smith's last time out, and he beat him down. So now Ankalaev gets to test himself against the former champion Blachowicz. And for Blachowicz, this is a guy that's from the opposite end of the spectrum. Whereas Ankalaev's 1-1-1 and lost one time barely. Blachowicz started off his UFC career on a not-so-great turn and then became the most unlikely of champions.
Craig's going to roll his eyes right now. I think Jan Blachowicz is a fighter who can look good in a loss, and Ankalaev can look bad in a win. And I do think that they have shown that in their UFC tenures. I always go back to when Jan Blachowicz fought Alexander Gustafsson, and I really was down on the UFC for not bringing up that performance more when he fought Israel Adesanya, and this is why. I know that's wild. Jan Blachowicz lit Alexander Gustafsson up on the feet. Gustafsson had to take him down round after round after round because he couldn't deal with the kickboxing of Jan Blachowicz. Isn't that something we should probably talk about? That Jan Blachowicz was able to outstrike a prime Gustafsson? And maybe Gustafsson was a little bit past his prime at that point, but you get the idea. He forced a guy who was at one point thought of as one of the best in the division's history, and he forced him to go to his plan B and really struggle with that part of his game. I just think Jan Blachowicz is one of these guys who, we bring this up, there's some fighters who are never going to get the respect they deserve from the odds makers. There's always going to be a bigger underdog than they probably deserve to be. Jan Blachowicz was like a 3-1 underdog when he fought Dominic Reyes, and it's one of those things where Jan Blachowicz, he just looks like a guy, he's a big powerful puncher, but he doesn't do anything all that well to make you really wow. He's a technical striker, he has good punching power, but nothing is really in that 1 percentile that makes him stand out like a Francis Ngannou. But I do feel like at this stage of his career, he's been able to show that he is very well rounded, and I hate that Ally Quinta is my example for this, so I think we're going to make Jan Blachowicz the new example, because Jan Blachowicz, at least up until this point, has demonstrated if you're a really good striker, well, he's a good enough wrestler to take you down and really implement that part of his game. And if you're a really good wrestler, well, Jan Blachowicz has pretty good takedown defense, and we all know how talented of a striker he is. I just think this is a really competitive fight, because I think Magomed Ankalaev is looked at as that new shiny sports car, whereas Jan Blachowicz is kind of that truck that might look like it's beaten up, but it's going to get you from point A to point B.
The kid's a super duty. You look at Blachowicz, though, he was a plus 205 underdog in that fight against Dominic Reyes, but from the flip side of the coin, you say he doesn't get the respect. He's minus 265 in his title defense against Glover Teixeira.
But Glover was 40.
And he lost that belt.
No, I know, but going into that fight, not a lot of people thought that Glover was going to put on the performance he did.
We should say this. For Ankalaev, it was, okay, when is he going to get his title shot? And like you said, he's had some fights that were kind of blasé.
The Santos fight wasn't great.
The fight against Santos wasn't great. The fight against Uzdemir wasn't great. Uzdemir had some successes in that matchup. And then if you look at his last win over Anthony Smith, who's always in main events, finally Ankalaev probably getting the respect he deserves. Now, originally this fight was more than likely a title eliminator because you're supposed to have Teixeira and Prochazka in the marquee. And for Blachowicz, not that he doesn't deserve to fight for the belt, because you thought maybe he'd get a rematch against Teixeira after he lost, but he lost so convincingly. He fights Alexander Rakic, and it's ended quickly due to that leg injury.
He looked good up until the point, though,
He did look good up until that point. It's just unfortunate the way that fight went. So it would have been great if this was a title eliminator. You would have had some more clarity going into a title fight, but ultimately we get this matchup. So what do these guys do really well if you've never seen them fight before? For Ankalaev, distance striking and mixing his kicks to all 3 levels, and he's a light heavyweight that can do that like no other. Look at his fight against Dalcha Lungiambula.
You know what we talked about a lot in the Adesanya fight? Jan Blachowicz checks leg kicks like nobody else in the UFC. He not only checks leg kicks, he can check body kicks. He's one of the few fighters who does body kicks the right way. They teach you to block body kicks elbow to knee, and then you create the shield. Jan Blachowicz can hurt you with his defense, and that's what I do like about Jan Blachowicz, and that's why the Thiago Santos loss was very telling for Blachowicz, because when he is a technical striker who fights within himself, when Jan Blachowicz knows who he is an MFer to deal with. But we saw what happened in the Santos fight. He got a little over aggressive. It was a Thiago Santos Santos who wasn't moving forward, and he got caught by a big shot.
Fought a little bit like Dricus du Plessis in that fight.
A little bit, but the thing about Ankalaev is it's going to be really interesting to see how he fights this fight, because I think if he shows up like he did against Kutalaba the second time around, just trying to knock out Jan Blachowicz, it's a terrible idea. Like, Jan Blachowicz has a really good chin. He's proven that on multiple occasions. He has phenomenal cardio for a power puncher too, and he's been in 5-round atmospheres before, and you don't worry about his cardio falling off a cliff. And that's the thing I will say about both these guys. I don't think the 5-round difference is going to make that big of a change to the quality of fight that we're going to see, because neither guy fights at such a high pace to where you worry about them tiring themselves out. They really go for their explosions once they are set up behind either kicks or feints or what have you on the outside. So I think this fight will be fought at a pretty good pace for as long as it is. I think both guys have a pretty good chin, and I do think stylistically it's going to make for a fun fight, because neither guy really has that one area that they're going to have a huge advantage in. Like, Ankalaev might have slightly better offensive kicks from the outside, but Jan Blachowicz is like a dirty boxer on the inside. He's also really good at that. So I think both guys have those small areas that they can excel in, but for the most part, they are similar fighters.
And this is the undisputed belt. Like, this is the one that John Jones is supposed to hold to the end of time, and it's not happening. So it's changed hands quite a few times. We'll see if Blachowicz can get the belt back, or if it goes to Ankalaev. Now, the main event and the 5-round experience definitely goes to Jan Blachowicz in a matchup like this. He's trained for more 5-round fights. Ankalaev has the big fights that he had outside of the UFC, not necessarily 5-rounders, but he did have the 5-rounder against Thiago Santos, and he was incredibly reserved in that fight. So we'll see how that plays out for both of these guys when they game plan for a matchup like this, because for Blachowicz, I mean, out of, WCA over in Poland, a great team around him. For Ankalaev, out of his native country. But if you do look at it for these two guys, I mean, the height, the reach, pretty similar. The reach actually lies towards Blachowicz in a matchup like this, which might surprise some people if they're not just looking at the graphic. If you look at the odds in this fight, and we will have a quick look at them in the old handy-dandy notes, Blachowicz is the underdog, open plus 170, plus 200 right now. Ankalaev open minus 200, minus 250. We have a look at the Topology votes. Surprise to us, they are to you. Listen, Ankalaev has been the Underground champ for a long time, so I'm going to say over under 75% Ankalaev.
It'll probably be over.
That's under. 884 total votes, 73% Ankalaev, 64% by decision, 22% by knockout. I think you get an Ankalaev decision, it's probably a boring fight. For the 27% that have Blachowicz, 40% by decision, 46% by knockout. My question is, Matt, does Ankalaev go for any offensive takedowns? Is he forced to do it if he loses in the striking?
That's the thing.
And will Blachowicz be able to dictate the pace of this fight?
Blachowicz only has one weakness in this game. I know I give him his flowers for how well-rounded he is. You can hold him down if you do get on top of him. He has good takedown defense, but it's very much kind of like good takedown defense, good first move off the momentum, but you can hold him on his back. Again, if Alexander Gustafsson can use his offensive wrestling against you, the Magomed Ankalaev certainly can, but it will be interesting because I could see that wearing on Ankalaev, especially if he does use his wrestling early. And Blachowicz, like I said, he doesn't fight at such a high pace to where you're like, wow, I'm worried he's going to punch himself out in the 4th and 5th round. He does fight in a reserved manner, and he makes his punches count. We saw that in the Dominic Reyes fight. He threw 17 punches in the 2 rounds that fight happened, but every single one of them landed, and every single one of them, like, it had an effect on Dominic Reyes' face, and that was a very different Dominic Reyes than the one that we've seen lately. Like, that was a really good fighter that he beat in that fight. I love the odds for Jan Blachowicz in this matchup, because I do think that Ankalaev is one of his more favorable matchups in the top 5 at this stage of his career, but he is 39 years old going on 30. Like, we're starting to see the end for Jan Blachowicz, and I know that at 205 that heavyweight fighters can hold on for a little bit longer. We've seen it. Power's the last thing to go, and in these 2 weight classes, power is normally the most important thing. So I could see a world where Jan Blachowicz triumphantly returns, shows off that Polish power, and gets a win over Ankalaev. But I think the range management of Ankalaev, his just risk-adverse style, is going to help him in this fight. I do tend to agree with you. I could see it being a little bit boring, which you hate to say for a 5-round title fight, but Ankalaev's style, I do think, is going to get him the win.
Like, Santos and Oezdemir had little successes when they were able to crash through the distance and land on Ankalaev, but Ankalaev, you talk about defensive acumen with striking defense, he's not Islam Makhachev, because Makhachev's normally taking down so quickly, you don't have time to hit him. But for Ankalaev, he is very, very defensively sound when he is on the feet. So you look at a matchup like this, to me, both guys have 5-round styles, conducive to winning decisions. But for Ankalaev, It's the weight, the bait, and then the utilization of his distance strikes, and that's what I like out of him in this matchup.
I think Yuri would be a difficult matchup for Ankalaev, though.
Oh, yeah. So for me, I have Ankalaev. For you, you're going with Ankalaev. This should be a great fight, though.
Would you agree with me? Right now, I think the light heavyweight division's in kind of a revolving door pattern with the title. I don't look at anybody in the top 10 right now and think, wow, that fighter's going to hold the belt forever. Like, I'm really impressed by what Yuri Prochazka's shown us. He's an entertaining fighter. He can dig deep when he has to dig deep, but a style like that normally doesn't defend the title 10 times in a row. So just with the light heavyweight division, I think it's really fun right now. You've got a guy like Jamal Hill. He's been able to make the rise. I know Rakic is out with his injury right now, but he was a guy who showed a lot of promise on his way to the title. I just think the division's in a fun state right now. It might not be in its prime when it had Forrest Griffin and Rampage and Chuck Liddell, where everybody felt like they were pound for pound fighters, not just 205 fighters, but I feel like everybody in the top 10 is pretty close, and it could be a fun time for the division.
And it is a big time card coming up this weekend. You also have Bellator 289, Stotts versus Sabatello. Those guys have bad blood. Carmouche versus Velasquez. Magomedov taking on Patchy Mix. A lot of great fights on that card. A lot of MMA to choose from. One championship was doing it on Prime Video. I don't know if you caught any of that, but your guy, the Monkey God, Jared Brooks, picking up a giant win.
I've been telling everybody for years. You don't know. You don't get it. There was a fighter who got cut by the UFC who beat Devison Figueiredo. I don't care what the judges said. He beat Devison Figueiredo. So shout out Jared Brooks.
A lot of great fights. Make sure you check out Question Mark Kicks this Saturday. It's always 2 hours before the prelims. We get to see how the weigh-ins play out. We switch our pick from Phil Rowe to Nico Price.
And it didn't work.
It did not work, but a lot of fun over there on that show. And of course, there's one card after this before the big break that they take during the holidays. So a big time card with 282 from T-Mobile this weekend. Keep it locked in with Fight Night Picks, and as we always say, let's get into it.